Well, hello, everybody. It is the second Monday or Wednesday of the month, April 15th, and we're rocking and rolling through April. We're just a couple days mid-month already. My gosh, it just feels like it just started, and I guess this is technically, is this Easter week?
It is. It's the week of Easter. It's considered Holy Week for anyone who observes Holy Week. Yeah.
Which
back in the day, I used to celebrate Holy Week. It's the holiest week in the Christian calendar, from Palm Sunday to Easter Sunday. So, and if you are a person who fasts, you only have one more week until you can start drinking or whatever you're doing. So anyway,
well, I don't think it's a fast. It's just you gave up something for Lent.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Because it's not really like a fast, like
abstaining of like all food, which
that's true. That's true. I think
quite the feat.
That's right. All right. So should we get started?
We probably should get started. I mean, we have an awesome show coming up.
Okay, excellent. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Pan Dulce. I'm Christian Cano, one of your co-hosts, along with Jenny Gunn, Barb Bacon, Mama Ruth. We are Mama Ruthless, it looks like it tonight. Maybe she'll join us because this is kind of a topic I thought would be very appealing.
I thought she would. I
thought so as well.
She does. There's a lot of she doesn't really like to talk on or speak on, but I kind of figured with this being a Latin American, Hispanic, very centric topic, and quite frankly, as one of the white people in this Zoom room, I'm very fascinated with because I'm curious to see what members of our esteemed Latinx community are going to say, and it's always fascinating, just as fascinating as talking about intersections of the LGBTQIA community. I think this is really actually excites me that we're talking about this.
This one in the chocolate show. So it's like
the chocolate show is my favorite.
All right. So I forgot to say, thank you for those who are joining us on Facebook Live, but also those who join us on YouTube and Facebook later, but also those who now listen to us on our audio podcast platforms like Apple, Google, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, right? Is that how we do it now? Jen, Spotify.
The Joe Rogan tape is gone to the wayside.
That's right.
Like all we did was just to start World War III.
That's right.
Got off the hook, basically.
That's right. Imagine. So anyway, welcome to our show. So we've got a really exciting topic today. But before we go into our topic, the name of our topic is Latinx, Latino, Tejano, Chicano, Hispanic. What term do you use? We want to talk about what term you use, and I'm sure there may be even more. Since we got Tony on, I'm looking at him. He's probably going, "Hey, you forgot." All right. So before we go into the topic and talk about our three important events, let's go around the Brady Brent screen. Introduce yourself and any imaginary button you have. I have Jenny, Barb, and Tony. Please.
I'm gonna make mine real quick. I'm Jenny-Jaymes Gunn. I live here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where the majority of us do that are on this show, and I'm an LGBT all-around advocate, and I'm also a feminist and a board member of the National Organization for Women, Charlotte chapter. And I'll pass it over to Barb. Are you the next one?
Yep, I guess so. Good morning. My name is Barb Bacon, and I'm a community advocate here in South Charlotte. And I think I'm going to keep my same buttons. I want to stop gun violence. I say healthcare for all. And those are my two top ones. So I'll give it to you, Tony.
Thank you, Barb. Hello, everybody. I'm the one and only Tony Foreman. I'm an Afro-Latino. I advocate for both the African-American and Latino community. I've been in Charlotte for a few years. I come from New York, working for a congressman for 10 years. Politics is at the bottom of my heart. And it's all about community. You know, it's about understanding that service is the best thing that can happen in the world. The best reward is somebody to tell you, you know what you did for me? It helped me a lot. And that's gratifying.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Tony. And I'm Christian Cano, one of your other co-hosts. My buttons are Medicare for All, Healthcare for All, Moms on Action, Gun Sense Legislation, and also, Biden on Monday made a big gun announcement, by the way. And then also In My Heart, Black Lives Matter on behalf of Joe Oldham, who was a freaking guest of ours who passed away in 2021. So I do want to say goodbye to two of our co-hosts who are going to be leaving us here. So just to let you know, St. Bernie is still here with his made in immigrant hands. He has his rosary and his 2 candles. And then, of course, baby Trump Pinata, who's anxiously wanting to know what we have to say. He has his Mom Demand Action sticker, his Biden-Harris, and then he's got a mask on to keep him shut. So with that said, we do want to salute to our neighbors, whatever you're drinking this morning. Did we say what day it is, Jenny? I can't remember. Did we? Okay. All right. Well, we'll salute to your neighbors. Today is Wednesday, the 13th, April 13th. Good morning, whatever you're drinking this morning. And then also, we want to thank our Pan Dulce sponsor and supplier, Manolo's Bakery. You remember all those pastries that I had, those Pan Dulce that I have? This is all I have left within 1 week. I'm embarrassed to say, but hey, I saved one for the show. So Manolo's Bakery on Central Avenue, please support your Black and brown small businesses during this global pandemic, or any small business. Please always buy local and buy Black or brown, buy Latinx. All right, Jen, you are muted, by the way. I couldn't hear what you said, just to let you know that. So.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Okay,
I was trying not to jump in or talk over you, but I was just kind of like trying to let you know we already said the name.
Okay, all right,
I still behave myself.
And, hey, my goodness gracious, this is going to be a good show. All right.
But you invited me back in. I jumped back in.
All right.
That's about a 50-year-old Pan Dulce, just so you know, that frozen one. I know how long that's been in the freezer.
Okay.
I think that one came from Arkansas when your family came over, actually.
That's funny. So, okay, full disclosure. Jenny's the only one who knows this. I have a backup Pan Dulce that's in the freezer that has been in there for almost a year, just in case I forgot to pick up the Pan Dulce or something like an emergency happened. I always have one Pan Dulce, and it is pink like this one, but this is not it. So yes, I do.
And I'm going back to mute myself.
That's crazy.
Okay.
I just hope it's not clouding up outside. I hate to be during Holy Week.
All right.
With lightning.
So,
I'm not religious.
Yes. But that was just funny because Jenny's the only one who knows that. But now, of course, the whole world knows it. All right. So we're going to talk about 3 current events. Yes, I know. If you want to comment on any of these current events in 30 seconds or less, 3 current events. In the news, Matt Gaetz, Congressperson Matt Gaetz, part of the trash squad, the crazy group of GOP congressperson, he had a announcement this weekend that he was like his re-election campaign announcement, the big announcement in Florida. Him and his special guest was Marjorie Taylor Greene, or as I call Marjorie Trailer Trash Greene, was his special guest, and 30 people showed up for his event. They said only 2 of them. They said only 2 of them actually lived in his district or weren't reporters. So that's first. If you want to comment on that. Second one is Elon Musk made big news last week about he has purchased 9%, I believe, of Twitter, and he was offered to join the board, and he even said something about it as well. Well, Sunday night, the CEO or the chairman said that he's no longer he's not going to be on the board now. So he will not be on the board. They didn't say why, but they did say that he is not going to be on the board, and Elon Musk has not commented. So obviously something happened along the. I'll tell you what I think. The last one. This is a serious topic. There's a lady, a Texan in Texas. Her last name is Herrera, not related to me. That's my mom's maiden name, by the way. She was arrested, I believe, last week sometime for a self-induced, she lost her child, or pregnancy. Jenny can correct me on my verbiage there. Anywho, the district attorney for the county that she lived in made a decision on Sunday night or Monday morning to not press charges. And so now she has been released after going through everything she's going through. So she will not be charged for self-induced murder, I believe, was the charge or something. I can't remember. So if you want to comment on any of those in 30 seconds or less, please do so. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Let's not even waste time about Matt Gaetz. He's not worth it, and he got exactly what he deserved. I did not bring my violin today. Elon Musk, I don't care one way or the other, but I have a strong feeling that there was a lot of telephone calls, emails, and feedback, and nobody was too happy about it. That's just a guess. Uh-oh. And what was the third one? Oh,
the lady in Texas. Yeah.
I think something should happen to that DA. That's not even part of the law.
Yeah.
It's her body. It's her right. It's still the law of the land. Why should she be put in jail? That's just wrong.
Yeah. Good point.
Put his head on.
Yeah. Who else? Tony, you want to comment? Then we'll end with Jen.
Didn't you say that they released her, that she wasn't arrested?
Yeah, well, she was arrested and she was in jail, and she actually bailed out because people raised money to bail her out, but they had decided to not press charges. So now I guess the bail is, so that was just announced, I think Sunday night or Monday morning. One of those two. Yeah, Monday. Okay.
Now, I might as well continue, Jenny. So Elon, my friend, Mr. Gaetz, I think that is just indicative of what may be a roller coaster, since the Republicans think that they're going to just run a mill with the elections and turn it over. I think that's letting them know there's a lot of people that ain't having it. Yeah. So,
I hope you're right, Tony. Right?
No, trust me on that. There's a lot of people that are not going to speak until election time. Like that, nobody would come at them. But I truly, in my heart, believe that when you're watching what's going on, especially with his partner in crime, Ms. Green, and the rest of them, Trump is not even getting all the media, the people, and everything that he used to gather. Yep. Times are changing. Yep. Elon Musk, I think that when he came in, the minute he came in and he wanted to start changing things, I think they looked at that and they said, "No, this guy may be trouble for us."
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
He came in like Putin.
That's exactly. Exactly.
Wow, there's a comparison.
Okay. All right. So
the last one, I just must comment. Now, look, I hate to bring in race, but in most instances, it makes a difference. Was this woman white or was she black?
She was Latina.
Latina?
Tejano. She was Tejano. I believe. I don't know that for sure, but I believe she was because of the groups that were helping.
She is.
Okay. Yes.
I've seen a picture of her on Twitter.
Okay. All right. Yes.
But Cano, you and I being Latino, you know that there's some Latinos that no matter where you go, they sign white.
Exactly.
Depends on how she identifies.
I agree.
I mean, in today's climate, and listen, guys, please understand, I'm not anti-white. I'm just pro-black. And I deal with the reality of what it is, especially what happened with Judge Ketanji Brown. And black women are under attack. Yeah. From Kamala to Ketanji, and we just got to be real, a lot of times, and most oftentimes, people of color are definitely, I don't want to use the term attack because it's a little severe, but they have more problems than others.
Sure. Okay. And you know what, Timmy, we're going to get more into that when we talk about our topic, but let's get Jenny to comment on these. Jen?
Yes, Jen.
Definitely. First of all, the mixer, in all fairness, with Matt Gaetz was a private and a public event because it was being hosted at a high school in Georgia. where it's also a speed dating event for him and the cheerleaders. But anyway, second of all,
that's a joke.
I go by.
What?
Well, Mr. Pids, I think he took it pretty serious, actually. He did graduate.
He date all those high school girls.
But anyway, next is, I like to quote First Fallopians and just say, if you don't have ovaries, mind your own fucking business. Do not attack women. Us trans women will come for you. Okay, we will stand with our sisters. So leave women and people with ovaries alone.
Okay.
End of story. Or we may use our Second Amendment. Who knows?
Yes.
Most importantly, what was the other topic?
Elon Musk.
Oh, he's pretty forgettable. I guess I don't know, between him smoking doobies with Joe Rogan or his problematic, support of Donald Trump and bad-mouthing Twitter about it, probably disqualified them for a board position, or maybe it's just the fact that they just don't want to have an a-hole on their board. I don't know. It's just bad for business. He just there's just certain things he should be doing. Like figuring out his rocket problem, it's having issues and some other things. And I know Tesla just filed for bankruptcy and it's struggling.
Really?
Oh yeah. They filed for
They've got how many million cars on there?
They got to get that truck out first. All right.
Yeah, okay. So I'm pretty sure Elion's dance card is full.
Yeah.
He probably shouldn't be trying to run Twitter when he can't even run his own company.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So me real quickly, the Matt Gaetz event, actually, Jenny, that was in Florida. It was in his district in Florida. Okay. But I do think it is funny, but I completely agree with Tony. It's like I had more people at one of my events and I have no one. And no one goes to my events. All right, so that's the first one. But I do think it was. Can you imagine? Because there's a picture of him walking in with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and their faces like, where's everybody else?
Well, Dan Bishop, Bathroom Dan, would draw more than 30 people. But I guess that's what happens when you're a pedophile, allegedly.
Well, yeah, that's right. Okay, so all right, so the Elon Musk thing. This is what I think happened. They didn't say, because the chairman or CEO of Twitter posted like a statement, and my understanding is it's very similar to if you and I decided to join a company, we have to sign a social media agreement, and in order for him to go on the board, he would have had to have abided by certain things that he could do. And things that he couldn't do. The same reason I'm not going to join the state executive committee, because if I badmouth, they're going to kick me off again. And that's the agreement you sign. So you make a decision. Okay, I don't want to do it. And so I think the board had made a decision. This is, if you want to join, this is the agreement you have to sign. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it. And so that's what I think happened, is that he was going to have to go by certain rules. And he wants to be able to say what he wants to say, and he can't badmouth Twitter. And I don't think he could have done. They would have just kicked him off the board. The embarrassment.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. The last thing was this lady Herrera. I don't know everything that's going on. I am just completely disgusted and outraged that in the United States, I'm going to sound like a libertarian or a former Republican, that the government can arrest someone for any reason and then say, oh, my bad, it really wasn't against the law. And to Tony's point, I assure you.
You mean like the Japanese in California during World War II? You mean that one? That same boat? Okay. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
I mean, but to Tony in Texas, had this been Buffy Davis from Plano, Texas, she would never have gotten arrested.
That's right.
The fact that she was a Tejano, probably not a very worldly person. I don't know that. I can imagine, because my understanding was she had a miscarriage, And when the medical team was asking her what happened, she said something about something about a self-induced abortion or something, but it was really a miscarriage. And they reported her to the sheriff. The sheriff arrested her, which shouldn't have happened. And then the DA went to indicted her. And then now they said, well, by the way, there was nothing against the law. So it was just,
no big deal. You lose your fetus and you get arrested for it. That's no big deal. Don't worry about it. Hey, everything's just fine. You didn't see anything.
I mean, think about it, that really should scare people in Texas. If you're really like against big government, that should scare you, that they could just arrest you and then say,
but here's my problem.
For miscarriage? Come on.
But here's my problem. Whether she went to Planned Parenthood, had a miscarriage or whatever, the fact they did that on purpose. That was to send a message. And clear and simple is that clearly they felt entitled and knew they had a green light to do this. Yeah. This wasn't an accidental thing. This was not just, we just got a wild hair up our ass and we don't know the law. This just happened. This was not like tripping over a power cord in your house with your chanclas on. Like this was an intentional F you Democrats, F you women, people with ovaries. We're going to show you how we're going to intimidate you. And this is how it starts. This is how it starts. And if people look the other way, no matter who you are, don't come crying to me when they start shoving you railroad cars. Just don't. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. What happens when they start rounding up people of color? Say, we don't think they're real Americans. We'll put payments in it for 6 months or a year or 2 years or 3 years. Does it really matter? They're probably not real Americans, or they're drug dealers, right? We want our streets to be safe, don't we? We can't trust people of color, right? Yeah,
that's a good point, Jen. We're gonna on that note, we're gonna take our first break. We'll be back in about 30 seconds. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching our Coffee Pan Dulce show every week. Don't forget, you can watch us visually on our video podcast platforms on Facebook and YouTube, but you can also listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all of the other ones that your favorite, whatever your favorite is. Once again, thank you for watching us on Coffee Pan Dulce. We'll dance out. Well, thank you. Welcome back. And Jenny, that was an excellent point. And
that's how it happened in 1936. We need breathing room. Yep. We need to make sure Germany's for Germans. We need to make sure the dirty money of the Jews and the banking Jews don't infiltrate our country, and they created things like purity laws and things like that. Where does it stop? Where does it stop? Like what's the difference with white supremacy? White supremacy.
In the envelope now to find out what they can get away with and what they can't.
Exactly. Just like Jurassic Park, when the little dinosaurs were testing the electric fence. And Jeff Goldblum says nature finds a way. I'm going to tell you, the nature of conservatives is to keep pushing until there's no resistance.
Yeah, well, that's a very good point, and I hope anyway we'll talk about this. Let's go to our topic. We did have a gentleman who was going to be joining us, which I would have hopefully he'll be joining us. I think we got a time zone. He is a producer. He's a podcast producer out of Mexico City. We were hoping, Mr. Pena, that he would be joining us, and if he does come in, we'd be interested to hear his take on how he views us in America. Us Latinos or Latinx, Hispanics, whatever term you're using. I think it'd be interesting to he actually follows us on our show and watches our shows and leaves us comments quite often. And but we do want to talk about this topic. And the reason I wanted to talk about this for quite a while was because there was a statement about 3 months ago from LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, from Domingo Garcia, the president or CEO, chairman of LULAC. he was asked by a reporter, are people starting to use the term Latinx? Because there's a bunch of backlash from some older Latinos or Hispanics. They don't like the term. They think it's too woke, or, it depends on who you are. And we use the term Latinx here on this show. And he said that he rarely hears anyone using it. Well, there's a lot of backlash from the academics and the young Latinos that work within LULAC. So he had to backtrack and say something like, well, it's really just depends on what people want to use. So we use the term Latinx for anyone who's been following the show since we first started. And the reason was because Latinx is more of a gender neutral term, especially if we have women on. We don't want to use the term Latino because they're not Latino, they're Latina, and some people use Hispanic, or that's more of a political term. Some people use, I'm also a Tejano. We'll kind of explain what that is. And there are also Chicanos, and there's all kinds of terms that people use. Some people still use Latino. But what I've said through this entire show is whatever term you want to use, just use it. If you feel more comfortable. So I want to go around and hear what you have to say, but I want to start with Tony, because Tony has this unique experience as an Afro-Latino, especially in Charlotte, North Carolina. He probably understands this.
I'm glad that, and thank you for directing yourself to me at this moment, because I'm here thinking. I'm a little open-minded about that, and I tell you why. I think that it depends on where you're at, because until I got to Charlotte, I've never heard Latinx. Okay? I went to, when they were having the impeachment stuff for meeting, to impeach Trump, I was in Washington. And I was with Raskin and I forgot the other congressperson's name, but the young lady that was presenting was Dominican, like myself. It's Dominican, like myself.
Yep.
And I said that I'm an Afro-Latino. She quickly corrected me and said Afro-Caribbean.
Ah.
Yeah, so you see what I'm saying? So it depends, and that's what Dominicans are calling themselves.
Sure.
Because the way they're looking at, the way a lot of people are looking at it, like you said, Chicano, is, so if you're Afro or you're Latino, whatever, you can say I'm Latino or Chicano, but it depends on where you're at.
Sure.
It depends on where you're at. As far as I'm concerned, I'm with you guys. If that's what you want to identify as, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Now, as a Dominican, in the Dominican Republic, they call themselves Hispanics.
Okay.
They don't use the term Latino. It's the people from Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, like that. They consider themselves Hispanic. So it's not, because they say, well, we're not from Latino America.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I tell you what we all are. We're human beings.
Yes. That's an excellent point. Hey, Tony, let me get Barbara jump in. Barbara, have you heard from your circle of people what they prefer? I mean, honestly, it was prefer to call people like.
I've had people ask me, I say Latinx because that's what you guys taught me. And they're like, what does that mean? Yeah, I said, well, there's all different kinds of people in Charlotte, especially South Charlotte, that there's different denominations of what Spanish they speak. And I'm sure not the right person to say. So they just said Latinx is more of a general gender neutral term that covers everybody, but I don't really know anybody other than you guys. So I think where I'm from, going to be real blunt, we're all pretty lily white here. And it's just the way it is. And I'm kind of stuck in the middle of South Charlotte Republicanism here on my street, so I really keep quiet. So,
that reminds me. I got to tell you something really funny, but let's sorry, Robert. I'm gonna get Jenny to jump in real quickly because I've got to write this down.
So, a couple things, Chris. I spent a lot of my life in San Antonio and South Texas, and in Texas in general, and so. Typically speaking, from what I saw and observations, and I'll use the Chamber of Commerce there in San Antonio, it was always the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Those was, as far as I know, they still go by that. In the early 2000s, they still were calling it the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. An interesting poll, and I think this is why LULAC made the statement they did. So there was a national poll done. Because of this discussion, not necessarily on this show, but in general, and 40% of the people in the Latin/Hispanic communities said it's offensive or it bothers them, that Latinx bothers them. 30% says they're less likely to support an organization or a politician that uses those terms. Only about 2% nationally in the Hispanic community use the term Latinx. And I will say the predominant first usage I ever saw of Latinx, it was before I moved here, but it was mostly in LGBTQIA circles where we've been adjusting our language the most to be more gender neutral, just to make it easier. So if you met a lesbian Latina, we would use Latinx, and I know a lot of the queer Latinx community here predominantly uses Latinx, but I've noticed when you step outside of that queer community, that also happens to be Latinx, and it's straight and cisgendered Latin people. I hear more Afro-Latino, Cubano, Tejano. Hispanic, I've heard that a lot. Like Rafael Prieto, he says Hispanic. So
he does.
He never used the term Latin or Latinx. He actually used
he doesn't.
And so, and I think he's from Colombia. I remember, right, originally. And so it's interesting to see how people self-identify. It actually is a very divisive term nationally. It looks like. And, I think anytime language evolves, there's going to probably, I would be curious, they did not break it down by age, but I would imagine most of the pushback probably comes from Generation X and the baby boomer Latinx.
Exactly. That's what I was going to comment on.
Which I think is perfectly okay. I think this is a term of preference and self-identity. And I think, just like anybody else, everybody should be able to define who they are.
Good point. Hey, Jen. Hey, Jen. Let's take our second break, Jen, and then I want to just kind of tell you the dictionary definitions of these phrases. So let's take our second break for about 30 seconds. Hey, I'm Christian Cano. I wanted to thank you so much for watching our Coffee Pan Dulce shows. I also want to thank you so much for watching us on our video podcast, which is on Facebook and YouTube, but also for listening to us on our audio podcast shows on your favorite audio podcast platform like Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podcast Chaser, and many more. Once again, thanks for watching us and listening to us on Coffee Pan Dulce. Bye, y'all. All right, well, thank you. Welcome back. And so I'm just going to go over the very brief dictionary version of what these mean. Latino is a person of Latin American origin or descent, and particularly a man or a boy. That's Latino. Tejano, which is something that I know, I've always grew up thinking I'm a Tejano. Tejano are residents of the state of Texas, who are culturally descendants of the original Spanish settlers from Tejas, or Chihuahua. And if they come from the northern section of Mexico. That's where my family comes from, the indigenous Tejanos. And so that's what a Tejano. I grew up thinking that then there's Tejano music, there's Tejano. A Chicano is an American of Mexican origin or descent, especially a man or a boy. My understanding was the Chicano was more of a California kind of term, and it was more of a political term in the 70s, Chicano. But my dad has used the term Chicano one time, not for himself, but he said Chicano. And then the term Hispanic is a person of Spanish-speaking country, especially those in Latin America, Spain or Spanish-speaking. And then, of course, Latinx, a person of Latin American origin or descent. It's a gender-neutral term. It can mean Latino or Latina. But this is, to me, what's really exciting about this Latinx conversation. What's really exciting about it is the Latino, Hispanic, Tejano, whatever term you want to use. We are standing on the shoulders of our African American and Black brothers and sisters. We are not letting white America tell us what we want to be called. We're determining what we want to be called. And that's, I think, why some of the more assimilated Gen X and baby boomer Hispanic Americans don't like, is because they have bought into, I want to tell you what you should be called, and I'm offended by the term Latinx. Instead of saying, I'm so proud that we finally can determine what we want to be called and not what you want to call us. And so to me, that is what's so empowering about the term Latinx, in which my understanding is the millennials are really the ones who kind of brought this up, also from other areas as well. So that was something I thought that was very, very interesting. But I do want to say something really quickly about what Jenny said. Jenny, hold on one second. About what Barbara said. Monday, I went looking for ferns at Lowe's. I was wearing my mask, had this belt that I wear because I don't want to pick anything up to hurt my back. I had 3 ferns on a thing at Lowe's. Walked into Lowe's, was looking around. I was looking for some peat moss and some all kinds of stuff. This lady, a very lily white Southern lady, was in line with a cart with a bunch of rocks, that you put in your yard. She said, "Excuse me, sir, would you give me a push?" And I saw it. I said, "Oh, sure, not a problem." I had my cart, and I jokingly, like I was going to give her a push, and she kind of did a little thing. So I pushed her thing up to the register, and I said, and she goes, "And I'm going to need help after I ring up." Because I grew up with certain, you learn how to deal with it. I said, "Well, I'll be happy to help you, but I don't actually work here. When I finish shopping, if you still need help, I'll be happy to help you." Now, I thought about saying, "Bitch," but I didn't want to assume that she did it because of what I looked like.
Mm-hmm.
I had nothing that said Lowe's on me, not the red vest, nothing. She just assumed I had to be one of the workers.
Yeah.
So I went walking around, and of course, the old me would have started to get really upset, like, "I can't believe, you just think I could not, that I could only work here?" Because it happened to be at Target a lot. That's why I don't wear red shirts at Target. So I went back around, checked out, made a kind of a joke with the lady at the register, and I said, "Oh, I'd be happy to help her, but I got my stuff." And then the guy that was helping her loaded was a young Hispanic guy that worked at Lowe's, and I saw her and I said, "Oh, I'm glad you found some help." And she goes, "Oh, thank you." She didn't even, nothing like, "I'm embarrassed to," I don't know what she was putting. Said,
I don't apologize.
This is what. There's this term in the Black and African American community called driving while black. And there's things that it's something that I did not realize until that moment, that there are many young, not just young, in where I live and in certain areas, a lot of people have not seen Hispanic Latinx people. They just assume they must be a gardener. They must be a
automatically.
Yes, it's an automatic assumption. They would never assume, well, I pulled up in my Porsche. And so you learn how to deal with that, and I could turn it into anger, or I could turn it into, it's an educational experience. I hope the next time she doesn't make that mistake. And I know that that's something that we deal with. That's the reason I'm so excited to talk about this Latinx thing, is because for the first time in my life, and Jenny and I have talked about this, that would have really upset me about 5 years ago. But today, because I hope that I've grown, and that now I'm like, now I'm saying the one, bless your heart. Because we're in the majority. So
yeah.
Tell me, Jen, what do you think about that, or what do you want to talk about?
Well, for one, that study did come off the Google machine, so I'd like to thank Elion for that. He sends some of the alphabet companies goons after me, but anyway, smoke them if you got them. But internalized racism, which is exactly what you experienced on Monday, is, and I've seen it with, specifically in Texas, with my Latinx and Hispanic friends, and I've seen so many awful things like that, where this is 2022, and if they don't have a uniform on, just don't assume that somebody's black or brown has to be an employee because you're in a certain part of Charlotte. Exactly. I don't give white people that much grace. She's just an old bigot, and and she slides back home to her little plantation and just goes, whatever. I gotta, again, this isn't Mayberry. We don't have just 3 TV channels plus PBS. I mean, for fuck's sake, we have the Twitter machine, the Google machine. We have 24-hour everything, and I gotta, it's one of those things. I mean, I don't go into Harris Teeter and think every white guy in there is the manager, or some crap like that, or whatever. What assume means is you make an ass out of you and me.
Yeah.
And that has to come from a racist space, because for one, maybe I'm smarter than the average bear. I don't know. But, if I'm in a chain store like a Lowe's or a Home Depot or a McDonald's or whatever, I'm not going to go up to some rando in there that's not behind the cash register and doesn't have the uniform on, and just, can I have some fries with that?
But you know what, Jenny? Jenny, you made a good point. And the only reason I mentioned this because Barb, Barb's one of our co-hosts, and she knows us, and I love Barb. And the only people that ever do that to me, and it's happened, periodically, are white women. Mm-hmm. And it's a combination of this entitlement, like, well, even if I'm wrong,
you can put up with it.
Yeah, and so it's like, can you imagine, like, to your point, Jenny, if I had gone somewhere and just asked any random white woman, "Excuse me, ma'am, do you work here?" I would make sure that I know the person. It's just because
you'd probably get slapped in the bar again if you did that.
Oh, that's right. But to my point is, let's get back to the Latinx, Latino, Tejano, Chicano, Hispanic conversation. Tony, I mean, whatever we decide to call ourselves, right? I mean, it is, for me, it is refreshing to be able to determine what I want to be called. I mean, you can call me Latino, you can call me Hispanic. For me, I don't care what term. I only use the term Latinx out of respect for everyone else, because we have women on the show. you know, and I've always felt bad about saying the word Tejano to like my aunts. They're Tejanas, you know, but I would never like just in general say, you know, Latino, you know, or whatever. I don't know. What do you think, Tony? I mean,
Well,
is this?
I tell you, let me start with me. Like I said, I only started using Latino when I came here. Now, let's go back into history. When you talk about discovering America, who's the one that's always coming up? They got a holiday for them that's supposedly discovered a place where people already live. Christopher Columbus, where was he from?
Italy? Portugal? Italy?
Italy. Yeah, but the whole thing is, during that era, the Spaniards came and they took over a lot of those islands. And then you had the French. So the Dominican Republic has, it's called, it's actually La Hispaniola, the island. And then you have Haiti and the Dominican Republic that comprise the island, of the two countries that comprise the islands comprise of. Now, Toussaint Louverture was the one that freed the island from the Hispanics and the French. Now, I think that I always identified as Hispanic because I grew up that way.
Yeah.
As I got older, and the way Jenny was talking, you become a little, because you read and you get into the history, and you know what I'm saying? And this theorist Skinner says that a child discovers or starts identifying when he gets to it's the stages of human development. Skinner is the sixth stage. So that's when a person starts identifying with who they are. But that's because of the influences around them.
Sure.
You know, the social aspect of what makes an individual or you have built their character. So that's why I say, like you, I don't give a dog what you call me. I was gonna say something else. Yeah.
Just don't call me late for dinner. Is that the same? Yeah.
I don't care. I've been called, but my name is Tony. They call Anthony.
Sure.
They call me Tony, and people call me all the time. They call me out of my name, and you know what I do? I turn it into a joke. I've been called words, but don't worry about it. You know.
So, hey Tony, what I read about a couple of months ago, because we were talking about the Chancla show and one of those things. I read that some of the criticism about using Latinx, because I think I saw the same poll that Jenny saw. Some of the criticism was this was a term that's used by the academics. It's something like the Ivy League Latinos or Latinx people want to use, and it's like the elitist wanting to start using Latinx. And some of them said, I'm always going to be Latino. I'm always, you can't take it away. This is my argument to that, and not really an argument, is I'm going to default to the best and the brightest in our community. If the best and the brightest of our community say, let's start using the term Latinx, if you want to use it, so we can be gender neutral, so we can be respectful for everyone, regardless of where you're from. If we have to use one term, let's use that. But if you want to use the subterms like Tejano, Chicano, Dominican, Cubano, whatever you want to use, a Puerto Rican, Puerto Ricans hate to be called Hispanics. They're Puerto Rican. Cubanos hate to be called Latinos.
I do have an update.
Okay, go ahead.
On the exact topic. So, I looked up the origins of Latinx.
Okay.
And believe it or not, we get to blame Elon Musk for this.
What?
True story. I'm reading this right off the Google machine, hot off the press.
No.
So it was created by English-speaking U.S. Latinx people around 2004 is when it started trending. on Google. And for the Google machine, we got to blame the Google machine for this. And Elon Musk, South African. But it literally started trending in the early 2000s-ish. And I guess it was a growing trend from young English Latinx people that were trying to get away from Hispanic for some other reason.
Okay.
And that's where it kind of started to trend was, probably really young millennials at that time. That were probably
that's what I imagine.
Latinx, but they were born here, were only English speakers, and they just found the term Latinx to be the most modern term for the overall amalgam of Latin American, Caribbean. They just found that to be a catch-all term, and it kind of stuck. And then it got studied by a lot of academics and people like that. But that's it just kind of was an evolution of language. At the same time, you also had trans identities being, noted as one of the reasons, because we had the Transgender Day of Remembrance started in 1999 after Rita Hester was murdered in 1998. So that started trending. So a lot of things started hitting in the early 2000s. And Latinx happened to be one of those. We can blame it on the internet. We can blame it on Google and Elon Musk.
Yeah. All right. On that note, we're going to take our last break to talk about a show that Jenny leads that comes on about 20 to 30 minutes after this show. So we're going to take our last break. We'll be right back in about 30 seconds.
Up next is Two Queers in a Truck with Jenny and Christian. And hope you guys tune in. We'll see you in about 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I do hope you join this the next show that comes on after at 11:30 on Wednesdays. It is Two Queers in a Truck, which Jenny leads, and I'm sure she's got some great topics. Who knows? We'll see what happens. She's actually very organized on her show. All right. So with that said, one of the things I was going to tell you, Jenny,
unlike on this show, I'm very organized. Who knows what'll come in this brain of mine.
One of the things that I was going to say was, for me, it has never been a difficult thing using gender-neutral terms. That was something that was never difficult for me, because after college, when I went into the corporate world, that was something that we did from day one.
Yep.
You did very gender-neutral terms. It was how we talked with each other. How you interviewed, and it was just so it was very second nature to me. So when I hear people going, "Well, how are we using gender-neutral terms?" Well, I'm wondering, maybe they just have not had any experience in the corporate world.
That's probably
I'll add to that when you're ready. In the corporate world too, I've gone through a lot of marketing and sales training in different schools with some really large Fortune 500 companies. Not only did they want gender neutral, they also told us many, many times the term ma'am and sir was very unprofessional.
Exactly.
And because for a lot of middle-aged and older women, when you refer to them as ma'am, they're like, "Oh, I'm not my mom." It's something that can come into conflict, and so it really had nothing to do with gender nearly as much as you're dating people, and especially in a marketing arena or a face-to-face corporate sales, for example. It's just like
that was very hard for me.
A curvy woman and assuming she's pregnant. And that's a no-win situation too. That's how really new salespeople get themselves pulled into the manager's office as well. So
that was
get you in a trick box when they're not necessary. Yeah. Whereas you may say Mr. Cano would be a lot easier. Yeah. Exactly. May I call you by your first name? That's how they was Mr. Cano, Mrs. Cano. May I call you Christian and Mary? And they would get you out of a trick box. That would be. You just get yourself in trouble.
Hey, let me jump to Tony. He seems like he wants to say something. Tony, You want to say anything about any of that? He's like, because that was the hardest thing for me in the corporate world, especially in the hotel business, is to stop saying ma'am and sir. I was brought up saying to my parents, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yeah. That's just what I did. When I went to the corporate world and I went to the hotel business, it was very difficult for me to break myself from that was because it was natural. And it only takes a couple of times where you call someone ma'am and it was really a sir on the phone that you start to remember this is why you don't do it sometimes, is because you could misgender the person because of their voice. And but I would it's very difficult for me. Also, I don't like remembering names, and it's easier just to say yes ma'am and yes sir. So anyway.
Yeah, well, I grew up like you, Cano.
Yeah.
I grew up like you, you know, ma'am, madam, sir. But once I got involved in politics and I worked, started working for the congressman, I started getting into calling like the gentleman, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Towns, because that's what they do in Washington.
Yeah.
They call you Mr. by your name, you know.
Yes.
They don't, there's no ma'am, madam, none of that. Well, Madam Speaker they use, but yeah, so I got into that. So I got into until, you know, we got friendly or whatever, then I'll call you Cano. You know, but you know, Jenny, you know, Barb, but
that's right. Just
this is, how you doing, Miss Barb? Hey, Miss Jenny.
Yeah, Miss Barb's okay. I like it.
You understand what I'm saying?
Miss Barb.
But you know, this whole thing, about and it's happening in I call it the new generation. At 68 years old, I've experienced and living in one of the worst communities in Brooklyn. And you know, going to college, one of the few in my neighborhood. Working for a congressman, I got to get a variety of experiences that helped me understand that people are going to be people, and everyone has their own mind. They think for themselves, so it doesn't matter to me. I don't give a damn what you call me. You call me damn.
Yeah. Well,
you know what
I do think. Yeah. Well. Yeah. No, I do think, and one of the things that I have really appreciated about living in Charlotte, because of the growth, we're kind of a young Latinx, Hispanic, Latino community, that we are able to help mold this city and hopefully maybe not make the same mistakes that some of the other cities did as they were rising. Mistakes as far as not appreciating our African American and Black brothers and sisters, the things that they have done. We shouldn't be against each other. We should be with each other. And there's some cities that didn't do that. I don't want you to have power. I don't want to lose power.
Against each other on purpose.
Yes. And so we have an opportunity, I think, in this city to talk about issues that other cities maybe didn't have the opportunity. And one of the things I really hope that our young, I think this show really speaks to, and I hope to educate our younger, our millennials and our younger Latino, Latinx individuals, and let them know that the world is your oyster. You are going into an era that many of us never had knew could exist, and it's happening because we are being respectful of each other. If it's more respectful to say in a group of individuals Latinx, I'm going to use that term. If the Latino Chamber, the Latin American Chamber of Commerce here in Charlotte, North Carolina, doesn't want to use the term Latinx, then they don't use Latinx. They will eventually become obsolete if they don't update the terms that they use. And if LULAC, which we're trying to actually form a chapter here in Charlotte, North Carolina, I think LULAC is a very progressive. They're run by young millennials, and I think we'll see a lot of these things occurring. But I'm just really excited that we actually have the ability to talk about these things, what we want to be called, and because some communities don't have those, they're being told what they should be called. So
but you know, Cano, real quick, it's that's one of the good things about this show since we started this. We tackle those subjects that nobody wants to talk about. That's what happens on Cafe and Pan Dulce. People don't want, there's certain topics, you know, that some people they just don't want to talk about it. They're afraid. But here, we go all the way out.
We do.
If you like it, fine. If you don't, guess what? We don't give a damn.
Well, yeah. So, Jen, you want to
watch it
before we start rounding up?
So my last parting thoughts before we do our final roundup. I think we're in an era where minorities, whether they're LGBT community, gender, diverse communities of all kinds, are starting to get the ability to not only be able to speak out and have platforms. And I think social media has a lot to do with that. The second thing is never eat the pink pastry at Cano's house. Because I know for a fact, I'm just going to verify this, that thing has a half-life of 1,000 years, and it's been in there for at least 5. Oh, well, if you've got the Montezumas tomorrow, don't come crying to me. And on this note, if everybody can tell us where you're going to be after this show and for the rest of the week, and we'll close out with Christian. So I'll start with Barb. Where are you going to be?
I'm actually, my Tuesday, Thursday in Winston-Salem. And I'm back working with the foundation that helps the disabled. They've got a whole new thing going on, a whole new chapter. It's really exciting. So I'm glad to be a part of that again. And I have this thing when I walk out my front door now. I haven't taken care of my yard all winter. It looks like nobody lives here. So I better get going, because usually I'm one of the first ones. But my allergies have been so bad these last 2 weeks. That's been my excuse, but I promise I'm going to get out there. I mowed my lawn today, so I made progress, but I just don't feel like it. I just don't. So that's it. I'm done.
Tony?
There's nothing wrong with that. So I guess I'm next.
You're next.
Yes, please.
Yeah, well, I as a politician, I'm involved in all the forums, and I'm helping 5 people that are running for different positions. I'm helping the Congresswoman with her campaign. But tomorrow morning, I'm going to have a cataract removed from my left eye. And I'm going to have the right eye also removed. There's a diabetic, it causes, diabetes causes part of that.
Yeah.
So, and then I'll be back to campaigning.
Excellent.
I'll be campaigning until the 17th of May. So that's Cano knows we used to be out there all the time. That used to be
that's
our
right.
thing.
I'll be out there this week, actually.
Yeah, Cano, I'm with the CRC now. On 2 subcommittees. And I've enjoyed, and I'm announcing it now to you guys. In 2023, I will be running against Becky Carney and the 102 again. The first time it was name recognition. This time,
so you mean 2024?
Right. I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, excellent. Well, it's time for her to retire. I would completely agree with that. I'm sorry. Hey, Jen, did you say what you were?
I rotated around them because you were having a pastry malfunction. But anyway, so I have a lot of Charlotte Pride prep work that we have to do, including our film festival, which starts May 11th. I'm involved heavily with the Equality North Carolina PAC and several other orgs. We've wrapped up our scorecards and evaluations for local candidates, which will start coming out on April 18th and April 20th, respectively. And that's about it. So, and I hope you didn't destroy your gastrointestinal system.
No, it's wonderful.
With that 400-year-old pastry.
Yeah, that's the sign of the episode. So listen, I do want to remind everyone that we have a couple more shows for our spring shows. Next week's show is the Politics show number 3. We'll have candidates that are running for 2022 in the primary here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And also, I think we may have one in Florida who may be running against Marjorie Taylor Greene as a Democratic candidate. Mr. Flowers, I believe is his name, we invited. So we'll see what happens. We'll cross your fingers. And then we also, after that, we will talk about a topic that's very dear to me. It's called the Latinx Lost Generation, 80s English only kids. There's a generation of kids that are Gen Xers that were never taught Spanish.
Yep.
I'm one of them. And people don't even realize there is a generation of kids from certain areas of this country that were never taught Spanish for many reasons, mainly because Spanish was not tolerated in Catholic schools or schools and so forth. And so our parents didn't teach us Spanish. And a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of Hispanics that don't speak Spanish, or Latinx people who don't. So we'll talk about that generation. And then in May, we have our Cinco de Mayo show. It is actually on the 4th of it's Cinco de Mayo, and we'll talk about the difference between Cinco de Mayo and Jesse Sace. We'll educate people on what the difference is between those two. And then, of course, we'll have a show in May called Is Inflation Good for Employment and Economy? And then the last show of May, we'll be talking about should taxpayers pay for sports stadiums or should owners pay for sports stadiums? That'll be a very interesting show if anyone is from
good.
We are going through that.
Yeah, remember that stadium we voted against when I first moved here? And guess what? It's sitting there. How did that happen? And is it running again? Yes.
But we do have to wrap up.
That's right.
On that note, cue the music maestro.
How's that?
That's
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
See you next
Have
week.
a great week. Hey, y'all, thank you for watching and putting up with all of our antics like we do every week. Without y'all, we would only be talking to ourselves. So we appreciate your viewership and continued support of our show, and we appreciate you so much despite Christian's horrible dancing. Have a great week.
Bye, y'all. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Hi, Tony.
I'll be back soon.
All
Okay.
right.
Next up, thanks for watching Coffee and Pan Dulce. Next up is Two Queers in a Truck. Stay tuned.